Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take my interview show where I get to learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And joining me, this is a special guest to talk about a new film. We have writer director Phil Claydon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Shane, thanks for having me on. It's great to
A-
be here.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking about your film today, Helloween. And I guess, Phil, if you want to introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then a little bit about the film, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so I'm Phil Claydon. I'm the writer and director of Helloween. It was a very small indie horror movie,
Mhm.
so I wore many hats while making this. So yeah,
Yeah.
wrote it, directed it, edited it, chipped in, done some music on it, done VFX, done
Mhm.
graphics, done the whole thing, designed the actual typeface,
Nice.
got its t-shirt made up, done a whole lot of stuff. But it was going back to grassroots filmmaking and wanted to deliver an adrenaline shot of clown horror for an audience. So
Mhm.
it was a good opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And as somebody who grew up as a child being afraid of clowns, clowns are terrifying. And I guess, Phil, I obviously you were very involved in this project and bringing this horror to life. What do you feel like were the things that really inspired you to put Halloween together?
It came together really fast. So
Okay.
I really had to kind of maneuver on gut instinct of the kind of movie that I'd want to make or see within the
Hmm.
parameters of kind of like the budget that we're working with. So obviously, growing up, I grew up with all the classics. I grew up in the
Hmm.
VHS era of kind of,
Yep.
John Carpenter's Halloween. In actual fact, I probably saw John Carpenter's The Fog before I saw Halloween, and then into
Nice.
Assault on 13, and then kind of like went through that whole era of Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, and went through all the
Hmm.
classics of The Shining and Discovery of all these kind of movies. So kind of everything that was infused in my DNA of what scared me and
Yep.
kind of what worked cinematically to get a scare kind of went into the making of it. And instead of seeing it as kind of like it's another clown movie. It was kind of like
Mm.
you just create another kind of horror character. It's like
Yeah.
what's their motivation? What are they angry about? What's their rage? Why are they going to inflict so much terror and pain on um, society? So kind of I came from that perspective of building up Carl Kane, and it came about because it was the producer Jonathan Softcott called me up and he says, "Look, I've got some micro budget horror movies to make. You're probably
Hmm.
not interested, but are you?" And I
Hmm.
said, "Absolutely. I want to
Hmm.
do that." I come off back of a studio experience, which was kind of like hands tied creatively and
Yeah.
shackles, and you have to live with that. So it was okay. Sounds like freedom. Let's do it. Started off as something else, and then the kind of financiers were like, "We want a clown movie set at Halloween." That was it. That was the parameters. And
Okay.
it was like, okay, well, the budget's also small, so 2 locations max. And just within that kind of wheelhouse, I had to kind of figure out the story. And my mind instantly, as I thought about that, I was thinking, well, 2016, the creepy clown science, that's really
Hmm.
kind of, I just remember that whole thing and the new stuff, and I thought it was insane. And everyone thought maybe it was kind of like marketing for a movie, but it wasn't. I was going, yeah, but what if it's like V for Vendetta? Do you know what I mean? What if
Hmm.
there's an idea behind this?
Yep.
What if there is somebody motivating it? What if it is like Charles Manson kind of cult where everybody's starting to come together and rise up? And the temperature of the world at that point, about 2 years ago, which it still is now, was kind of like volatile. A lot of kind of
Yeah.
extremes happening. A lot of people giving voices to kind of like and that was kind of my jumping off point. And then I realised, yes, but we can't do kind of like a huge movie with a clown uprising.
Yep.
However, this is when the first Purge came to mind because I remember
Hmm.
the pitch for the first Purge was that one night where all crime is legal, and you're thinking this is going to be an absolute belter, but you realise it was Bloomhouse back in the day, wasn't it, when they were kind of like their budgets were a lot smaller,
Yeah.
and so it was a very clever home invasion movie set with this kind of world as a backdrop. And when I
Yeah.
first watched it, I was like, oh, I'm a bit disappointed it's home invasion. But when I rewatch it now, I love it. It's like very tight, very well done, builds the world out through kind of CCTV and just you
Hmm.
feel the impending doom. And I was like, well, if we can do that with this movie, I can make a very kind of small, contained film about the instigator, Carl Kane, being in a maximum security facility and then through his voice building out an army on the
Mm.
outside, which is going to help him, get out and create his plan and inflict his terror and inflict his fear, which he wants to do on society. So it was kind of like, okay, I can do stuff with newsreels and I can do stuff with the viral videos, and we can pepper that all the way throughout the film to make the world seem big and bigger than being a kind of small home invasion movie. But in actual fact, it's kind of like a very contained, set in a maximum security, set in a home movie. So that's basically in a nutshell how
Mm.
Halloween came about.
Well, and you could definitely feel those kinds of influences because I remember seeing the first Purge too, and just being like, like it was a bit unexpected that it wound up being such a contained thing because it was such a big idea. And obviously, the sequels, when they had more money, they wound up breaking it out and building it out and stuff like that. But this is definitely a film that I felt like, watching it in 2025 and being in the United States, there's a lot of anger everywhere. And
It,
just all this building up, I felt like it was really poignant, hit like a very specific place where like all these extreme ideas are boiling up in with anger and rage, and you could feel that in this. And I think it made it even more intense of an experience. And obviously, you could tell like you mentioned, it's like you were working with a much smaller budget. What do you feel like were some of the things that you were most proud of being able to be a little bit more creative in terms of telling your story when you have such a small budget?
I think it just kind of it makes your brain work creatively. You
Hmm.
kind of like you're over all departments because we were so small. We don't usually, as a director, especially as a lesbian vampire killer, isn't alone. And within you go in, you got your vision, and then you sit down and you have your heads of department, and each of them
Yeah.
go and they build on what you've creatively. So it's like, well, you can now go and create that. Where with this, it was more about you had to be hands on in every single department. You know what I mean? You had to be hands on in the creation of
Hmm.
what you wanted to do with our location. We've got this sort of underground car park location,
Hmm.
sort of underground sort of garage it was in Wapping, and it all the doors were wooden and stuff. So it was like, okay, we can make it work with light and we can make it work with sound. You put a
Hmm.
metallic sound and a buzzer on a wooden door, the audience is like, oh, that sounds like it's maximum security. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
creatively putting all this stuff that I've had in my head, and I learned from kind of like growing up because you remember, John Carpenter and that didn't have a lot of money, and we grew up
Yeah.
listening to their commentaries and listening to what they had to do and how they kind of like, you know, sort of budget and DIY in a way
Hmm.
to make it work. And that's what it was with this film. It was like coming in, doing everything from obviously wrote it, directed it, but then you come in and it was designing sort of hospital schematics that needed to go on the wall.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you needed
Hmm.
it up there, but you know that the art department's coming in like 1, 2 days before, and then you're going to
Yeah.
need that. And you know you're going to turn up and say it's not going to be there, and no one's going to care. You're the ones that's going to care. So you got to
Yeah.
do it. The ID badges had to be there. So you go, okay, I'm on Photoshop, I'm designing ID badges, and you're kind of like your hand doing all these art department things for
Hmm.
the kind of the visual style of it. And I'm proud of the fact that just got my hands dirty and got it on there. So there's
Hmm.
nothing I can point at going. I know what we didn't have, so I think we kind of like elevated everything that we didn't have by just kind of being clever. We shot it in 9 days. Do you know what I mean? We had to move extremely
Yeah.
fast. You got 80-page script shooting kind of 9 pages a day. Every scene's a big scene. There's no kind of sitting, as you know, the movie moves fast. Everything's
Yeah.
stuff happening all the time. I really didn't want to make a movie where a lot of films I watch, they have that kind of 25 minutes at the start and you're like going, and then, then it gets going after half an hour. I was going, no, I want to 25 minutes in, you want to be kind of exhausted. And it's like, no, and
Yeah.
then we're going to ramp it up even more. So, I'm kind of proud of like the pace that we got into a
Hmm.
film that really has not a lot of money, but just built on that kind of feeling of impending doom and tension and suspense and this one character, and you can all these ticking clocks going on, and that's kind of what I'm happy about.
Absolutely. And when you have an 80-minute film that feels so tight and just you're in it, and you're in it and you're going throughout the whole thing. It felt really well paced. And to be honest, and I'll is like I watch a wide range of different films. Like I watch a lot of films that are like hundreds of millions of dollars, and I watch a lot of films that are very small budget. And this really did avoid feeling like it was something that was made with such a limited budget. And I think that goes a lot into the creativity behind the camera and being able to make that happen. And especially with, horror is a genre that has become synonymous with a lot of like iconic horror characters.
Yeah.
And you have your Michael Myers, you have your Freddys, and here we have our Carl Kane. And Ronan Summers bringing this character to life. How did you work with Ronan to like make this character, this kind of character that's going to really stand out and be that representative of all that fear that's building up in the film?
It was, I mean, Ronan was a great bit of casting from, got to give that doff of the cap to the producer, Jonathan, on that, because he
Mm.
flagged up Ronan in another performance where he's playing one of the Craze brothers. He
Okay.
sent, yeah, he sent me him through his tape, and I was going, yeah, he'd be great if we can get him because we're tiny budget. Do you know what I mean? Why is he going to
Yeah.
come and do this? This is this, and he came in very late. I think it was kind of like 3 days before we shot.
Okay.
So it, and we had kind of like a few conversations on the phone. Then I'd the stuff that I built, obviously I've written the character, I understood where his rage and what his, because I actually bizarrely when I was writing it, I felt for Cole Kane. It's like I understand where he's coming from. I know he's doing it in
Yeah.
an extreme way, but I understood where he was coming from, and I really wanted the makeup to be iconic. So
Hmm.
spent a lot of time just looking at it was things that scared me. I was scared of the way Alex looked in The Clockwork Orange. I was scared of kind
Yep.
of like that bed scene of American Werewolf in London, when his face opens and he
Yeah.
had that kind of like scary face in the bed in a nightmare sequence. And I remember the flash frame of the test makeup in The Exorcist. So it's kind of like those
Yeah.
three things infused kind of how I went about creating this character. And it was obviously Alex kind of took over that look of Alex with the lashes.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then once I got the lashes and slashes down, which is what the makeup coined it into production, it kind of that really took over. So we had the look. When Ronan came on, he could see the face. Do you know what I mean? So he knew what he was
Yeah.
going to look like. I was going, this is think of the V for Vendetta mask. I said, everyone's going to be wearing this. All the clowns you got out there, they're all using the lashes and slashes. It's the same thing everywhere. And so Ronan came in. We had a few conversations. We didn't really kind of reference a lot. And I think that's what it was
Hmm.
good. We just went straight. It wasn't like, oh, we want it to be this, we want it to be that. We
Yeah.
kind of, for him, it was on the page. He kind of knew what he needed to do with it. And what he didn't want to do, I remember this, he wanted to keep the voice and everything as secretive as possible. He didn't want to show me too much. He wanted me to
Okay.
be surprised. He wanted to see the look on my face. And so here we are. Ronan comes in for the big scene. He's got the makeup on for the first time. He sat in the cell, and we're all there. We're a very small crew, 10, 11, 12 people
Yeah.
there. And he's on the bed, and he does the voice, and he starts talking for the first time. And that scene's like 4 minutes, isn't that kind of
Yeah.
like that first scene where he grabs you, and literally you could hear a pin drop. And at the end of it, it was only one take. Everyone was just going nuts, all sort of
Yes.
the whole thing, because it was just like, oh my god, it's that thing in movies where you're just transported. We're behind the monitor, we're in the
Hmm.
room, but the energy is so intense. It was like
Hmm.
watching, theatre or something. It was just like I've stepped out. We're not on a movie set anymore. We're in Cole Kane's world,
Yeah.
and from then on, he kind of he plays with it, which is what I really like. It's playful. He's scary and menacing when he needs to be, but he pulls it back where there's kind of like some sort of humanity and likability and playfulness
Mm.
about him. And sort of he's got this kid-like energy, which when you first see him, my son plays the young Cole Kane right at the start, and I like the fact that he's
Hmm.
still almost got that childlike play
Hmm.
about him, which is because I said to Ronan, it was like at 10 years of age, Cole Kane, when the police are coming to get him that night, he knows what he's going to do. So he's just been sitting there, biding his time,
Yeah.
playing around, taunting, messing around with Ellen Marks and all that kind of stuff, waiting for this one moment. So it was an exciting thing. But due to what it is with these things creatively, because we're moving so quickly, it's the energy, isn't
Mm.
it? Like we haven't had long to think about it, talk about it.
Yeah.
We're all working on gut instinct. I had to write it quite quickly. We were into production quite quickly. So everything was moving on kind of what we believed was right. You know what I mean? And it was kind of, that was what was great about Ronan's performance as Cole Kane, which is, menacing and exciting and
Yeah.
something that captivates you.
Well, and I think especially with like right now with like Art the Clown being so popular, a lot of people are like pulling for like where's that next like horror kind of character. And I think Carl Kane really stands out in this film as a
Oh,
character. And I think what's very interesting that you brought up is that, Michael Myers is like the evil underneath. Freddy Krueger is the evil in our dreams. Carl Kane's a person who has legitimate motivations for things. It's just he's taking it to a whole other level of what he's doing. And I think that's what makes him a little bit more terrifying is he is human, he is real, and there's real reason behind his rage and what he wants to do with it. And I think that really works in the context of this film for sure, and just adds that little bit of extra, this hits a little bit different kind of experience for sure. But I guess my last question I want to ask about the film, and I always like to ask my guests about their film, is so you have Helloween and you want to get people to watch it, what's the one pitch, one reason why people should go check out your film?
cool. I love that question. As a filmmaker, we always have too many words to say, don't we? But I think
Yeah,
the reason why I made it is the reason why I make all my films. It's the movie that I want to go and watch on a Friday night. It's the movie that I
okay.
want on the shelf behind you. It's that thing where it's just like this is kind of it's comfort horror. As I said, I kind of
Mhm.
like make R-rated ambling. It's I'm not doing something like Eden Lake, which is going to traumatize you. I'm going to do something
Yeah,
where you can hang. I wanted to make a Halloween movie. And what I find about Halloween is it's fun. We love it,
yeah,
and that's what I wanted with this movie. I wanted to just get back to good old-fashioned suspense. You know what I mean? As I said, it's kind of like it's bloodless. It's almost bloodless. There is blood in
mhm,
it, but it's not. It is not terrifying. We're not, unfortunately, got all the
yeah,
gore and that kind of stuff. It's very much going harking back to the original Halloween, but there's a fun element to it. You know what I mean? As I
mhm.
said, it starts very quickly. It's 80 minutes. It's short, and it's just supposed to give you a thrill ride and an adrenaline shot of suspense for kind of that 80 minutes. So I'm saying it's something you can cuddle up with your mates on a Friday night and a Saturday
Yeah.
night. You can definitely put it on your Shocktober list and you'll have fun with this movie.
Well, and I think this is going to fit in really well for this October for Halloween. And 80 minutes of just some really good horror, and you're in, you're out, and you have a fun time along the way for sure. So I hope, people start checking this out. I know it's on VOD, at least here in the States, and you're able
It
to
is.
go rent it and check it out and everything. But I guess, Phil, if you're ready, are you ready for us to learn a little bit more about you?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get involved.
Awesome. So I always like to start off with this question, despite that not everybody was answering this question. But what's your favorite film?
I love answering this question because,
Yes.
okay, hint.
There you go.
Yeah, my favourite film, hint,
Yep.
is Jaws.
Yep.
Wasn't the first film I ever saw. I had to run home, I think, about the age of 4 or 5 when it was premiering on UK television. And
Mhm.
I think from that moment on, I have been captivated by what I think is mastery of cinema, isn't it? I think it's
Mhm.
everything that movies were designed for happens in Jaws.
Absolutely. It's its 50th anniversary this year.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to go check it out in theaters when it got re-released, but I remember leaving a movie that I'm like, oh, I've had a good enough time, and I walked by the like Prime theater in my AMC, and it's like Jaws. I'm like, kind of wish I was sitting in there watching that instead. But it's so perfectly all put together, and the absolute nightmare that it was putting it together. And the
yeah.
fact that it was like a 27-year-old Steven Spielberg made this movie magic. And it's a great horror film, it's a great monster film, but it has a lot of humanity and something to say, and just everything about it is so incredible. And there's a reason why it's still one of the best films of all time 50 years later. So, and we're all still celebrating it for sure. Now, obviously, you have your little memory of like getting to watch this, but what's your earliest memory of actually going to the movies?
My earliest memory is actually the reason why we're talking about Halloween because,
Okay.
and it wasn't a horror movie because I was 4 years of age. It was the Brighton
Mhm.
Odeon, and I went to see a film called The Empire Strikes Back in
Nice.
1980. Taken there by my cousin Mark, and I went there with my older brother Rob. And I sat down, and I tell you what,
Mhm.
honest, honestly, I did not know what was going on because it's the sequel to a film that
Yeah.
everyone, I didn't know what
Yeah.
it mattered. And this is the power of cinema, isn't it? I remember
Mhm.
coming out being transfixed. I've still got the AT-AT walker somewhere up in the attic.
Yeah.
That AT-AT sequence, the snow scene in Hoth.
Mhm.
I think for me, as a young kid, I didn't want to leave the cinema I was like, what do you mean this film's finishing? It's just like I could just stay in this world. I just want to be in Cloud City. And from that moment, the magic of cinema, the bug of cinema, had caught me, and from that began my story. It was like I'll go and watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and be
Hmm.
extremely scared of something. I was lucky in the VHS era, and it was like getting all kinds of movies out, you know.
Hmm.
But it was Empire Strikes Back, the power of cinema. That was like whatever's happening up there, I need to do that. And I don't know
Hmm.
how I do it. And I don't know what part of that, whether it was like, special effects or whether it was going to be writing story. Eventually it was, I want to write stories. I want to direct stories. I want to live in that world.
Yeah.
So yeah, Empire Strikes Back, age 4.
It's the power of Star Wars, the amount of people like a Star Wars film is their answer to this question because it's such a cultural thing. And like I know I was 8 when Phantom Menace came out, and that was such a big thing for me. And I already had all of them on VHS. I had watched all the Star Wars movies and everything. So it's really powerful and so inspiring for so many people for sure. Now, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm not going to assume. What's your favorite genre of movies?
Favorite genre? Well, it's kind of like level pegging with horror and science fiction.
Okay.
It's being transported. I think horror, obviously, I always lean towards because I
Yeah.
just love what horror gives you. I love the fact that horror just is the world that you can create, and I think that's
Mhm.
what it is. It's the quickest form of cinema that can transport me out of a situation.
Mhm.
Like I can watch it, and just because of the visceral nature of what horror is trying to do,
Yep.
it's like forget about what's going on over here in your life, Phil. Check this out. It's like yes, I'm now on the edge of my seat. I now want to know what's going to happen. It's like oh my god, why am I
Mhm.
terrified? And yeah, powerful genre science fiction for the ideas that you can bring
Mhm.
into the world and the worlds that you can transport yourself to. But yeah, two
Well, and
great genres.
perfect mixtures of some
Yeah,
with like Alien and stuff like that. And that's the thing. If you're sitting in a horror movie and you're gonna forget about work the next day immediately once you start feeling
yeah.
that tension overcoming you and you're just like thinking about nothing except I'm afraid of what's gonna come around that corner and having that kind of visual experience for sure.
Well, exactly.
Now,
Not just like romantic comedies or anything, but which I love. But it's just like my brain will go, or you'll start scrolling after 20 minutes or something. You know what I mean? It just doesn't have the
yeah,
same
doesn't have that same kind
lock
of
you
just
in.
like locked you in and
Yeah,
now you're terrified. It's
yeah.
just like
And you enjoy it.
yep. Um, admittedly, like I did not watch horror movies growing up, or basically it took me until college because I'm a big baby. I do get scared easily.
You're just
And
sensible, Shane. You're just very sensible.
well, and now I have such a big appreciation for horror because one, it's a big gateway for so many filmmakers because one of the great things about horror is that you can do so much with so little because you just need something to scare you. And that could be anything. It could be a shark, it could be a clown, it could be like a dark alley, lights going on and off. It's like something, and you can do that with such a little budget. And like I love science fiction, and I do appreciate when I get to see a creative sci-fi film with a small budget, but most of them are much bigger ideas and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and being able to do that. But I guess Phil, so a couple other favorite questions. Do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
Yeah, Spielberg is
Okay.
up there as my go-to. Just he's the ultimate craftsman, and
Yep.
combined with his craft and his ability to tell a great story, I think he's just
Hmm.
never known a filmmaker have such a great relationship with understanding what it is we, the audience, want.
Yeah.
And he's never got the ball. He's delivered on Jaws, he delivers on Raiders, and then there's Spielberg and he goes away and we forget he goes away for a bit and he makes some other movies. Then suddenly he comes back and he smacks you in the face with Jurassic Park. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like he has never stopped being able to give you, the audience, what you want. And he delivers it in
Hmm.
such a great way. And then when you step back away from the kind of the experience that you have and you watch the craft on show in terms of the storytelling, how he knows
Hmm.
where to put a camera, his casting, just everything about what he does is so instinctual and just so breathtaking to watch sometimes. Like when you sit back and you analyze Jaws or you sit back and watch Catch Me If You Can or Jurassic Park, and it's just
Yeah.
like the craft on display from that man is beyond really.
On the fact that he can tell any type of story is just
Yeah.
so impressive. It's like You don't need to go any further than 1993 to realize he had Jurassic Park and Schindler's List come out at the same time. These are as different as you could possibly get in terms of cinematic experiences, but they're both amazing films and do exactly what they needed to so perfectly.
He's also a master, and he gets it in through disguise. He's a master horror filmmaker. If you
Yeah.
actually think about kind of like the sequences in Jaws, because I took my middle son Felix, who's 10, to go and watch Jaws, and Trinity, my youngest daughter, wanted to go, and she's 7, and I was going, no, no, because you would really enjoy it, but I don't think you'll get through the first attack or the
Yeah.
basically the boy being attacked on an island. That'd be it. You'd be out of the cinema. And when you think about the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark with the faces melting,
Yeah.
and when you think about when I sit down and watch kind of War of the Worlds, it's War of the Worlds. It is just full tilt horror movie from start to finish. It's
Yeah.
science fiction, but it's just so bleak and
Mhm.
distressing and haunting as a movie. It's just he gets it in through stealth, but a fantastic horror filmmaker.
Absolutely, because I did one of my other shows that I have, Welcome to the Wasteland. I go through a whole filmmaker's filmography week by week, each film. And I remember doing Spielberg and realizing like those early TV movies that he did like all out horror. You watch something like Duel,
Yeah.
which is basically Jaws, but with an 18 wheeler instead of a shark. And it's so intense. And it's really impressive that he's able to inject that into so many films for sure and work in so many genres. And, he has a good sense of humor. I think his only real attempt at making like a full blown comedy, 1941, probably wasn't his strongest film, but he's able to hit on all those different kinds of things in such an impressive way.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about in front of the camera, do you have particular favorite actors or actresses?
I don't have like particular favorites, not somebody where I'm just like, because there's so many great actors out there. I think it's,
Mhm.
but coming down hands down to kind of who entertains and who delivers all the time,
Mhm.
for me, I think Tom Cruise is completely watchable all the time. I
Yeah.
love the combination of him as a movie star and you sink into his character, whether it's Edge of Tomorrow, whether it's him in War of the
Yeah.
Worlds, whether it's him as Ethan Hunt. But also, I think you know, how he works behind the camera in terms of a producer in getting the
Mhm.
right again it's his relationship with the audience. I think Top Gun Maverick is a phenomenal piece of entertainment because he just waited and knew that he had to deliver something that wasn't going to disappoint, and what a ride
Yeah.
that was. And you can tell it's from someone going, I know how to hit the audience, I know how we can get them. And for
Mhm.
me, he's another guy, just effortlessly brilliant to watch, as is Emma Stone. Anything she's in is
Yeah.
phenomenal. Such a such a great actor. Again, just effortless, completely like pulls you into the screen. A couple of people I'd love to work with, and I think just a phenomenal and doing great stuff all the time is Colin Farrell and James McAvoy. Just stuff
Mhm.
that they do is like next level, and they do so much varying stuff. They just see,
Mhm.
and every time I see them in something, they just kind of like blow my mind with kind of like the choices and the decisions they make
Mhm.
as actors. Just love it. Yeah. So you didn't answer your question. Not a
You.
favourite. I
Yeah.
kind of like have quite a gamut of who I'm watching and love.
Well, and Tom Cruise has been doing this for literal decades, and he knows how to entertain and he knows how to deliver. And Emma Stone, it's so fascinating because, like, I remember the first time she really stood out to me, like Crazy Stupid Love, and being so
Yeah.
funny and charming. And now all this work she's doing with Yorgos Lanthimos that is just so out there and challenging herself and doing such interesting things with that. And James McAvoy, like, I remember seeing for the first time in like Chronicles of Narnia as Mr. Tumnus. And then you just the immense amount of range that he can bring. You could, if you want to see his range, literally watch one movie, watch Split, and just see what he's able to do and sell
Phenomenal,
every.
isn't it? Yeah.
It's crazy. That movie would not work anywhere near as well as it did without him being able to make every single one of those personalities feel real and lived in. And I don't think a whole lot of actors can reach those kinds of places and like shift gears like that. And it's something special. He is a really special performer for sure. Now, Phil, do you have a film that you feel like you just watch like every day?
Yeah, I can pretty much watch Jaws every day.
Okay.
So Jaws every day. I do, and my comfort food. This is think back when I was at film school. If I was kind of like needing to fall asleep, and this is not a diss to the film because I love the film. It was Evil Dead 2 was always my kind of like go to stay on.
Nice.
That's so much fun with Evil Dead 2. So they're really comforting to me. And The Fog, because that was kind of like my first Carpenter, and it was just the suspense and the eerie
Mhm.
ghost story that delivered. But yeah, I
I
mean, if you said, Phil, these are the only three films you got, I'll be quite happy with it.
I I The Fog is such a special film because that's one of those types of movies that like obviously a lot of people have seen Halloween, a lot of people have seen The Thing, which The Thing's my favorite. I'm a big Carpenter fan.
Yeah,
And I feel like The Fog's that one where I'm like, you haven't heard about The Fog? You should definitely watch this movie and get excited about getting to watch that because it's terrifying. And the
yeah,
amount of craft that he puts into building up. And you never have to have like a full view of what those ghost pirates look like. You just
yeah.
need to see there's a silhouette outside of my glass door. And I'm like, I don't like this. What's going on here? And well before, Pirates of the Caribbean had ghost pirates, these were terrifying ghost pirates
They were
for sure.
absolutely terrifying, weren't they? Just the seeing the shadow knocking on the door. John
Mhm.
Carpenter, he understood all those beats. Growing up. I mean, I've probably watched The Fog more than I watched Halloween, and I've watched The Thing
Mhm.
probably more than I watched Halloween. Because The Thing is just a masterclass in
Yeah.
tension filmmaking. But the Fog has that real kind of amazing ghost story, which is just executed perfectly. And
Mhm.
like again, he had no money. Do you know what I mean? Had a
Yeah.
fog machine, some limited effects. I said, you know what I mean? Some Rob Bottin kind of like creepy pirate guys, but
Well,
just
and to my point earlier, like for a horror film, you don't need much. You can just have
yeah,
fog. What's in it? You don't know. And that's what's terrifying about it. All you need is a shadow, a silhouette, and a fog, and it's like, that's creepy. And being able to make that work. Now, what's a film you feel like you connect with because it relates to another interest of yours?
what do I connect with in terms of a movie? Well, I love sharks. I mean, again, it always
Hmm.
goes back to the same thing because Jaws got me into just an innate love of sharks. I love the kind of,
Hmm.
I've always wanted to go in a cage
Hmm.
and see a great white. I have seen one great white live. I was over in America on the West Coast, and they had at Monterey Bay Aquarium. They
Hmm.
had got like a 5 foot baby great white in their
Okay.
major ocean aquarium. Literally went up there, drove up there with my wife, and just stared at this. It's the most beautiful. Like the great white shark is. It's like perfect filmmaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's perfect thing of evolution and watching that thing just swim around, come out of the murk, and it was like this 5 foot gliding past, and to see a great white shark real for the first time, that was kind of phenomenal. And it was only obviously through, a lot of people obviously Jaws gets hammered a lot because of a lot of people went out and were fishing great
Yeah.
whites and had to make them an endangered species and all of that. But what it taught me was actually an understand. It educated me. I educated myself. I watched documentaries. I'd
Yeah.
eat up documentaries on great white sharks. I was, obsessed with like books on great white sharks. So sharks have been a big part of my life ever since I saw Jaws because I think you were so fascinated by this thing that actually exists in the ocean.
Hmm.
And
Well, and I think that's fascinating about like just the ocean in general. There's so many things to explore that we've never seen or anything
yeah,
like that. And like obviously it's either you're going out into the ocean, or you go like you could go to an aquarium and be able to see some of these things, but it's a fascinating creature for sure. And you know, just seeing this massive animal made out of just cartilage and just it's a majestic thing to look at, and just like this exists in the same place that we do on the same planet and stuff like that. And yeah, I know there's been a lot of regret about how Jaws adversely affected sharks because like sharks just don't go around eating people.
no,
That's not what they do, and most of the time it's by mistake. They're not like, oh, I want to have some human today. No,
we
the
don't we don't taste good. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's unfortunate. Obviously, they are very sharp. So if they hit a major artery, it's kind of that is what it is. But
yeah.
there are. we are in the wrong place being in the ocean, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, and I'm a really big into animals. I love watching nature documentaries and stuff like that. I love hippos and stuff like that. They kill a lot more people
They
than
do.
sharks do. And they're a terrifying animal, despite the fact that they look all cute and cuddly until they open their mouths and have giant fangs and everything. But it's a crazy world that we live in for sure with all the types of animals. Now, Phil, do you have a particular movie character that you connect with on a personal level?
I think I connect with Marty McFly
Okay.
in terms of he's always up against time. And that's how I
Mhm.
feel about every day of my life. It's like I'm always running out of time. I never have enough time. Wish I had a time machine to go back and
Yeah.
finish my have a to-do list at the start of the day, which is absolutely never going to be achieved. I'm always racing against it, or something comes in, or a phone call or something, and I'm never there. So I feel like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, and he feels like he's running to fix all these things that have gone wrong, that he's kind of like messed up to get to a place where he has to be on time at a certain time to get back to where he needs to
Mhm.
be. So he's always up against it in parts one, two, three. So yeah, I feel definitely like Marty McFly, just trying to get through life by racing against time.
I feel like sometimes the villain of my story is time. You just
Yeah.
run out of it and you can't
No,
do anything
there's
about it.
never
So
enough time. It is just, there is no, there's, I say jokingly most days, and I wish days were 48 hours long, because that's, I start to rev up about 3, 4 o'clock, and it's just like the day's heading into tea time. It's
now, do you have a particular film that you love that you feel like would surprise people?
a particular genre I love. Love musicals.
Hmm.
Definitely just a big fan of musicals. Again, it's that transportation thing of
Yeah,
what cinema can do. What a horror film will take you away, and a musical will definitely take you away, because the whole thing of suspension of disbelief.
yeah,
That goes back to, I think, watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and that opening scene where
yeah,
Spielberg does a Busby Berkeley number at the opening of an Indiana
yeah.
Jones sequel to Raise the Lost Ark. I mean, that film is insane. That's why I love it so much. And then I think, I could sit down. I mean, I loved Wicked, just for the craft and
Yeah.
everything that happened in that, because I didn't expect it to work, and it does, and it pulled me in, and I'm emotionally entrenched and kind of like in it by the end. And The Greatest Showman, which came out and kind of like got hit by the critics, but absolutely I love it. I just kind of like, I loved it. It was
That movie
purely
is
so,
endlessly entertaining.
exactly.
That's
It's obviously entertaining.
well,
I
and
agree.
the thing is, most musicals are like 2.5 hour long, like old classic. Like The Greatest Showman's like a tight hour 45 minutes, and it's
Yep.
like bam, 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 amazing songs, amazing energy. It's actually funny because a couple hours after we wrap up here, I'm taking my mom to see Sound of Music for its 65th anniversary re-release
Oh,
in
that is
theaters.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, for her birthday. And I grew up watching The Sound of Music and Mary Poppins and a lot of
Yep.
musicals like that. I love musicals too. So I get
Good.
very excited whenever like a
Yeah.
new big one. And my birthday weekend is Wicked for Good's coming out. I'm like, well, my friends and I are all going to see Wicked.
It's
So
it's like they've released it for my birthday weekend, and you can have like, it does feel like it is that, again, it's that
mhm,
community experience of going. You have to see it at the theatre. Do you know what I mean? You have to see it at the
yeah.
cinema. Like, I need to be scared with other people, because we all need to look at
Mhm.
each other and go, "That was fucking frightening, right?" And we're having fun, or "That song was a banger." I'm sorry.
Yeah. That my theater experience seeing Weapons like last month was
Yeah,
amazing. I'm pretty sure half the audience literally jumped out of their seats for one particular scare, including me and my friend who were sitting next to each other. And then we were laughing all together and got cheers by the end. It was a wild, amazing experience. It was one of the best experiences I've had in a theater in a long time. Horror can do that for sure.
it's wildly entertaining as well as
Yep.
scary. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's
Yep.
that balance of going. You can have fun while being scared, and that's why we love it.
Absolutely. Now, Phil, my last question for you is, what do you love most about movies?
Oh, where do I begin? I think it's the greatest magic trick
Hmm.
that we have in modern culture. When you think about it, and because I teach film, 'cause I'm a lecturer as well, and I always say, don't you think? we are make believe. We create characters that don't exist. We have a camera. We shoot all these scenes. Somehow we seem to put all this stuff together to create this
Mhm.
illusion that an audience buys.
Yeah.
All they're thinking about the outside world, and suddenly is caught in this magic trick of the fact that you are going to be scared. You're going to you're,
Yeah.
you're going to wonder why Bill Murray has to repeat the same day over and over and again. And it's this relationship that we have with this storytelling, which only cinema can do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Only cinema can rest the camera on a face in a close up with a piece of music, and we know exactly what that character's feeling, and we've got a lump
Yeah.
in our throat. You know, I don't think any other art form can do that. Where it's just like I'm choking up. There's nothing being said. I'm just like seeing images and
Yeah.
music, and
It's
yeah, it's one of the greatest, the greatest magic trick we have. And I hope it just keeps on giving. And that's what I want to do. I just want to create movies to just
mhm,
give that same feeling across.
absolutely. Now, how I always like to wrap up my show, and I always like to have my guests ask me a question. So, what's one question you would like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
Oh, I love the question of coming up with a question. Well, I think I'm going to give it back to you in terms of walk me through what is the one film that you love?
So, my favorite films of all time are the Lord of the Rings films.
Right.
I, you know, I actually have a really funny story about the when I went to go see Fellowship of the Ring in theaters because my aunt took my brother and I, and she didn't check the runtime of the movie, and we had a basketball game because, like, I briefly played basketball. I was not very good. I was just really tall. And we had a basketball game, and we had to leave after 2 hours of the movie. It's a 3 hour movie. We missed the last
You
third
had
of the
to
movie.
leave the Fellowship. Oh my God.
And the last thing I saw was Frodo getting stabbed by a cave troll.
Yeah.
And then my aunt's like, it's almost over. It was not. I remember going to school on Monday and one of my classmates being like, miss a giant fire demon. And a whole bunch of others were like,
You
what?
shout fast. You missed it.
And my mom took me to see Two Towers and Return of the King when those came out. And like they were some of the first, like I immediately bought them on DVD. My first ever purchase on Amazon was getting the extended edition box set. And one of my
Yeah.
first nights at college, I just stayed up all night watching them, trying to see what the new scenes were and stuff like that. I just remember just you see these films, and Peter Jackson did such amazing work of making everything work. The performances are great. And it's one of those types of films where it's not like one performance like carries the movie or anything. It's a whole ridiculously massive ensemble of actors doing amazing work across the board. The production design and the costuming and everything is so detailed, and the
Yeah.
world feels so real, whether it's miniatures or the forced perspective of making, regular sized human beings look tiny. And all of those tricks, I spend so much time watching those behind the scenes
Yeah.
documentaries, making them
Phenomenal.
because
Yeah.
it's just the movie magic and like seeing an ant come to life or a
Yeah.
giant elephant or a Balrog coming to life. And the story is at the core of it, it's a story of good versus evil. It's a story of temptation, all of our darkest urges trying to make us not do the right thing. And those things are so simple and powerful. Some of the speeches, I get goosebumps. Like sometimes I'll just
Yeah.
throw on some of the speeches from Return of the King on just because I'm like, I'm getting all pumped up watching this, and action's incredible. The special effects, for the most part, really hold up now because that movie was made in they made it in '99, so like this is over 25-year-old film of them putting this all together. It was just that, to your point, is movie magic,
It is movie
and
magic.
and live action fantasy is so hard to make
Yeah.
because you have to get so much buy-in. And few fantasy films have been able to do what Peter Jackson did. And you could even just watch The Hobbits, which I still enjoy them to some extent, but they used a lot more CGI, a lot less like actually getting out
There was
there and
less
making the movie.
tactile, wasn't it? Yeah.
Mhm. And but fantasy is such an incredible thing, and there's a reason that so much fantasy is in animation because you could be so much more creative with it
Yeah.
and making it come to life. But Lord of the Rings movies, them and the Mad Max films are the films that have like influenced me the most. Like, it blows my mind that a 70-year-old man made Furiosa
Yeah.
that just came out last year. I'm like, this small, smiley little Australian man went out and made this crazy, high octane, wild film. And like, I remember seeing the Road Warrior for the first time in high school and just being, my mind was blown
Yeah.
about like this whole world. And I didn't have to wait as long as everybody else for when Fury Road came out, but I remember when those first stills came out, and I'm like, this looks insane. Those first trailers came out, I'm like, this is mind blowing. And one of my favorite moments of being in a movie was the 2 hours of just nonstop adrenaline that
Yeah.
Fury Road was. And
It's
I'm like,
unreal.
I was hearts racing at times. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is it's
You come out of the field. Do you remember coming out of Fury Road? And it was like every audience member must be. It's like I'm exhausted. How can you be
yep,
exhausted from? I was like, because it's been such an emotional roller coaster, just everything. But like you
yeah,
said, Lord of the Rings. It's like sometimes I sit there in the cinema and I'll get a lump in the throat and I'll get a tear down my face just through like the sheer craft sometimes. It
mhm,
doesn't even have to be a moment that is,
yeah.
someone will be looking at me, I'll have a tear dry because it's the craft of like some of the stuff. I remember in the Fellowship of the Ring, I was sitting there for about 3 hours and even though there was some emotional stuff, I had some tears coming down just because it was so beautifully done.
Well, and Howard Shore, like the score that he made
Yeah,
for Lord of the Rings, there's like 15 different pieces of music that are iconic from those movies.
yeah,
And he made enough music to fill out like 20 films of being just iconic. And the like anytime any of the music from the Shire comes on and
yeah,
just the whimsicalness and just like it brings this joy. And then some of the most unnerving, haunting music of like Mordor or like the Nazgul and just like these deep pants and stuff like that. I'm like getting this whole entire feeling around. It's just so incredible. But those are the one like what Jaws speaks to you is like those are the films that really spoke to me. And like I was inspired by Mad Max to like all the branding for all my stuff is the Wasteland because like this really made an impact on me
yeah.
and inspired some of my own ideas for stories and stuff like that. So movie's magical for sure.
It is, look at us. We're sitting here having a conversation, talking about we are connected through our love of movies, and that's what it's about.
Absolutely.
If I ever get to do a Halloween 2, it is a post-apocalyptic
There you
version.
go.
So you know what I mean. It's going to be like the Road Warrior, of horror.
I'll be there waiting for it, ready to watch it.
Just need a
But
bit of extra cash, and then
yeah,
we'll go and do it.
get this man his money. But Phil, thank you so much for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Been a pleasure, Shane. Awesome. Thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, where can people go check out Helloween?
Halloween is on VOD now, digital in the US,
Mhm.
and in
Yep.
the UK comes out September the 29th, where you can VOD, digital, and it's got a Blu-ray release over here,
Nice.
which hopefully it's region free, so you can get it across there in the States as well, which has got commentary behind the scenes, all the stuff on it.
Awesome.
So physical media, we're keeping it alive.
Yep, absolutely. But I'll put all that information in the description of the video so people will check out. But yes, Phil, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Shane. It's been awesome.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.